The sovereignty of God is a foundational truth in Christian theology. It means that God is supreme, all-powerful, and in complete control over all things. Nothing happens outside his will or permission. But what does this mean for our daily lives? How can we understand God's sovereignty not just as an abstract doctrine, but as a living reality that shapes how we think, feel, and act each day? First, let's clarify what we mean by the sovereignty of God. The Bible reveals God as the king over all creation. In Psalm 103:19, we read, "The Lord has established his throne in heaven, and his kingdom rules over all." This isn't just poetic language, it's a declaration that God's authority and power are absolute. He governs the universe and everything in it, planets, nations, nature, and people. But what does this mean for our daily lives? Some wonder, if God is sovereign, does that mean he controls every detail of our lives? The answer is yes and no. God's sovereignty means he is ultimately in control of all things, including the big and small details. Yet he also gives humans genuine freedom and responsibility. This tension can be hard to grasp, but Scripture teaches that God's plans will never be thwarted, even as he works through human choices and natural processes. Consider the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. Sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused and imprisoned, Joseph's life seemed full of suffering and injustice. Yet in Genesis 50:20, Joseph tells his brothers, "As for you, you meant it evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive." God sovereignly used even the worst circumstances to accomplish his good purposes. This story encourages us to trust that God's control extends over our difficulties and setbacks. In everyday life, the sovereignty of God brings profound comfort. When we face uncertainty, loss, or hardship, we can trust that God has not lost control. Romans 8:28 assures us, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." This does not mean every situation feels good, but that God is weaving everything into a larger tapestry of good for those who trust him. Understanding God's sovereignty also shapes how we approach our decisions. We are called to be wise, diligent, and faithful in our responsibilities, knowing that our efforts matter. Proverbs 16:9 says, "The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps." We plan and work, but God directs the outcomes. This frees us from anxiety and pressure to control every outcome, inviting us to rest in God's care. Moreover, God's sovereignty calls us to humility. When things go well, we recognize God's blessing, not merely our own skill or effort. When things go wrong, we remember that God's purposes are higher than ours, even if we don't immediately see them. This prevents both pride and despair, grounding us in a steady hope. Sovereignty also fuels our prayers. Knowing that God reigns over all things, we approach him not as a powerless bystander, but as one who can move the heart of the king. Prayer is not a way to change God's mind, as if he didn't know best, but a way to align our hearts with his purposes and to participate in his work in the world. Some may struggle with the idea of God's sovereignty when faced with evil or suffering. If God is in control, why does he allow pain and injustice? Scripture teaches that God permits human freedom, even the misuse of it, as part of his sovereign plan. He is also working to redeem and restore all things through Christ. The full resolution of evil will come in the new creation, when God makes all things new. In the meantime, believers live in the tension of trusting God's control while enduring the brokenness of this world. This trust is not passive resignation, but active faith, engaging with the world, loving others, seeking justice, and sharing the hope of the gospel. To live with confidence in God's sovereignty means we don't have to fear the future or be overwhelmed by circumstances. It means we can face each day with peace, knowing our lives are held by a loving and all-powerful God. It means every moment, whether joyful or painful, is part of his purposeful plan. In conclusion, the sovereignty of God is not a distant theological idea, but a personal reality. It reassures us that God is at work in the details of our lives and in the broad course of history. It calls us to trust Him, to serve Him faithfully, and to rest in His unchanging power and love.